We've got a new guy leading worship this morning, so he doesn't really exactly know what he's doing, so y'all go ahead and stand up. We'll get things started. Now we're going to try something different this morning. I want you to put your coffee down. Do this. You can smile a little bit. That would help, because I'm nervous. We're just going to worship God for a little bit. Is that okay? It's going to be that ever really makes me want to sing your forgiveness. It's like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. It's like sound of a symphony to my ears. It's like holy water. Your forgiveness. Honey on my lips. It's like the sound of a symphony to my ears. It's like holy water on my skin. It's like holy water on my skin. Like holy water on my skin. Let's sing it out. Worship the God who was. Worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. Come on. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. My God, He holds the victory. What do you think, church? There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. We won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. Shout out your praise. Sing to the God who heals. Sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause He hung up on that cross and He rose up from that grave. My God, still rolling stones away. Hey! There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. Shout out your praise. 'Cause we were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. We were the beggars, we were the beggars. Now we're royalty. We were the prisoners,
and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet.
All right, guys, let's try it. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. We won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. We shout, everybody. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. We shout out your praise. Shout out your praise. Give the Lord a hand. You can be seated.
Hello? What?
Good morning. Oh, you guys, you got them all fired up. All right, we are finishing up our summer of Fruits of the Spirit with one of the most important ones, one of the ones that I need to work on, self-control. Are you guys excited to work on your self-control today? Yes.
So today, speaking of self-control, we have a game that requires a lot of self-control. So you guys are going to need a partner, all right? So what's going to happen is we're going to put some tongue twisters up on the screens. One partner is going to use their self-control to say the tongue twister. The other partner is going to use their self-control to not laugh at their partner. So if you can't read,
This is a hard
pick a partner
one.
that can read, use your self-control. One partner is trying not to laugh. One partner is reading the tongue twister, and we have a few, okay?
All right,
You guys
find your
understand?
partner.
Yeah.
Partner up. You have 5 seconds. All right, ready for the first one?
Ready.
You guys ready? You have your self-control. Take a deep breath. Control yourself. Control yourself. All right, say it. No laughing. It sounds funny from up here. Do we get it? Was there any laughing? Any mess-ups? All right, we ready for the next one? Go. It started off easy. I heard some laughter. All right. Yeah, what happens if you say it wrong and you also laugh? So like cancel each other out?
Hey, well, good morning, Two Rivers Church. Let's give it up for our new worship leader. Yeah. Hey, well, we are super pumped, super excited that you guys are here, whether this is your first Sunday just checking us out or you guys have been here for years. We are just super excited just this morning to be here with you guys. If this is your first Sunday or first a few Sundays, we have this awesome thing that we do called Try 5, which is just where we encourage you guys to try 5 Sundays. Pretty simple, but it's a great way for you guys to get to know us as a church and just us to get some information off you guys and just kind of hopefully getting you guys plugged in here at Two Rivers. So if you're interested in what Try 5 is or have any questions about that, we have a page on our website at tworiverschurch.com, and we also have the welcome booth in the lobby, and they would love to answer any questions that you guys have. I just have a few announcements for you guys. First is Stuff the Bus is coming up. We got a few weeks for that. You guys might have seen in the lobby that little booth or that little bin for Stuff the Bus. And well, what we ask is school's coming up, and there's a lot of students or teachers that might not be able to afford supplies or different things for the classroom. And so we're asking you guys to bring supplies, backpacks, different things like that, where we're able to give them to the Craven area. We are working with Staples, so we're doing Staples does a massive Stuff the Bus, and so what we're doing is collecting everything by August 19th, and then on the 20th, we're bringing it out to Staples and doing that big Stuff the Bus. So we'd love for you guys to participate in that, bring any supplies. It'd be much appreciated, and it's just a great way for us to get involved with the students in this area. Next is Men's Fellowship. Coming up, oh yeah, Men's Fellowship coming up in 2 weeks or so. It's not this weekend, next weekend, it's August 13th. And they are meeting at 8:30 a.m. at Newbern High School, and they're going to be helping with painting some of the areas in the high school and just touching it up and all that stuff. So we'd love for the men to come out help out with that, get some painting done, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Next is with any ministry, whether it's the women's or the men's or youth or anything like that, we have a QR code that's on the back of the seat in front of you that we'd love for you guys to scan, and that'll just have any upcoming events, dates, times, contact information, all that stuff. So if you're interested in anything that's coming up at Two Rivers, we'd love for you guys to scan that. And then lastly, with the youth group, we are meeting tonight here at 3:45. We're leaving at 4 p.m. We have this thing called Recharge tonight, which we do every fifth Sunday, every month that there's a fifth Sunday, where we go to Greenville at Eastern Pines Church, and we get together with a bunch of other churches and just worship God and have lesson, food, games. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll be back.
Here at your feet, my desires and dreams I lay down. If more of you means less of me, take everything. Yes, all of you is all I need. Take everything. If more of you means less of me, take everything. Yes, all of you is all I need. Take everything. Oh Lord, change me like only you can. Here with my heart in your hands, Father, I pray, make me more like Jesus. This world is dying to know you. Pray, make me more like Jesus. This world is dying to know who you are. Show us the way to your heart. Father, I pray, make me more like Jesus. More like Jesus, I pray, make me more of you means less of me. Take everything. Yes, all of you is all I need. Take everything. If more of you means less of me.
Broken hearts inside of a broken soul. Alcoholics to addicts, English African Arabs. Ain't no riches to fix it, you still broke when you have it. If you ain't breaking bad and you still chasing a habit, it ain't no wonderland, so we still chasing a rabbit. Ain't a soul on the planet that's better than another, and we all need grace in the face of each other. What's up?
Mess I made, I need you to restore me.
Look, from heaven we all small.
Well, good morning. How's everybody feeling this morning? Oh yeah. Hey, well, thank you guys again for being here. My name is Micah Seth. I am the youth minister here at Two Rivers Church. And sadly, we are getting ready to finish our series, Beautiful Mess, where we've been going through just the book of 1 Corinthians, Paul's letter to the church in Corinth. We started this series probably about a year ago, and it's taken us a while, but we're finally here, finally at the end. We had a few series in between, but it's been super cool getting to go through this as a church. And so today we're going to focus on two different parts of 1 Corinthians 16. We're going to focus on Paul talking about giving to the church and giving generously, and we're also going to have an overview of 1 Corinthians. And if you guys don't have a Bible today, if you guys need one to follow along with us, we have people around that are walking around with Bibles. If you could just raise your hand or scream at them or something, they'd love to give you one as we start this morning. But as we start in 1 Corinthians 16, I usually start with a story or like an analogy or something to tie into the message. But today I felt like it was fitting, since it's the last book or the last chapter of this book that we've been going through. I wanted us to read through the entire chapter. It's 24 verses. I feel like it'd be cool for us to just let the words of God fall into our heart this morning as we get ready to start, as we read through 1 Corinthians 16. So I'm going to do that, and we'll get started. So we are at 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 1. And that says, "Now about the collection for the Lord's people, do what I told the Galatian churches to do. On the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with your income, saving it up so that when I come, no collections will have to be made. Then when I arrive, I will give the letters of introduction to the men you approve and send them with your gift." I want to start and read verse 1 through 4. And it says, "Now about the collection for the Lord's people, do what I told the Galatian churches to do. On the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with your income. Save it up so that when I come, no collections will have to be made. Then when I arrive, I will give letters of introduction to the men you approve and send them with your gift to Jerusalem. If it seems advisable for me, I go also. They will accompany me." And so what are these verses talking about? I wanted to go through that briefly, but Paul is instructing the people of Corinth to save up a sum of money each week within their income, within their means, so that when the time comes, when there are people in need, or there's a church that is struggling, or there's an area that needs help, the church is able to step up and help out. Paul is saying that they're going to collect the money and go support them. And so one thing that points out or stands out the most to me in these verses is that he doesn't specify a specific amount of money, right? Like, he's not saying you guys need to give $20 a week, you guys need to give $50 a week, because we need to help these churches out. We all need to show support, so that we're going to set a limit of how much you guys need to give based on how much you make. He doesn't say that. But why? It's because church is not a subscription, right? Church is not like Spotify or Netflix where you pay a specific amount each month. Church isn't meant to be something that you pay for, but it's an opportunity created to give to those who need it, to let our blessings be a blessing to others. And Paul is telling them that there's going to be a time where we need to bless others. There's going to be a time where the people will need the church's help, and we need to be ready for it. So he's calling them to step up and to be the church for all and not just the church for themselves. And in order to prepare for that, what they need to do is they need to collect and set aside money each week. Take the blessings that God gives them through finances and give that blessing to others. And so we at Two Rivers, we try to strive for that mission, right? That mission of not being a church for just the people in this room, but a church for everyone in our area and in the world, right? For those that might need help. So we try to set aside money in preparation for that. And this isn't going to be a message about how great Two Rivers is or how we have everything down, we're good to go. But what it's about is what the church is able to do when we as Christians give generously. It's not about Two Rivers, it's about the church. And so each year, I'm going to go through a few mission statements or a few mission points that we at Two Rivers try to do each year. Each year, we've donated a well in Kenya in order to help with the water crisis in that tribe or in that community or in that area. And so Two Rivers has been around for a little over 13 years, and with donating a well each year, the wells that we have donated have given water to over 2,500 people. People that we have never met, people that we probably will never meet, but we are a blessing to those who need it because the church is for everyone, right? Each year, Two Rivers gives money to kids to go to camp, whether you're preschool all the way to 12th grade. How much I'd give to the church. Or man, if I just got that raise, then yes, I'd start tithing. It'd be great. And the sad truth is we miss what Jesus says about our hearts and our heart's posture when we give. And I want to look at Matthew 6:19 through 21. And it says, "Do not store up yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourself treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. And so Jesus, in this moment, is not calling us to live a life of poverty, right? He's not saying give everything to the church. He's not saying that money is bad and you need to give it all. But what he's saying is that we're called to put the kingdom first, right? Like, where's your heart? Where's your treasure? Is it on earthly things or is it on the kingdom? And so what do I mean by that? What does it mean to put the kingdom first? And that means, and this goes throughout Scripture, in every aspect of our lives, whether it's our heart or our actions or our words or our thoughts, we need to be kingdom-minded, right? Like, we need to have our hearts centered around Christ. We need to have our thoughts centered around Christ. Whenever we act, we need to resemble Christ. And money is no exception. Because I feel like a lot of times we feel like, yeah, I got my heart centered around Jesus, but I'm just going to keep this money on my side, right? I got this part. And that's why I love what Paul says in the first part of this verse. He says, on the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money keeping within your income. I want to focus on that verse. He's saying that the first thing you need to do, right, on the first day of every week, right when you get that paycheck, right when you get that money, you need to put Christ first in everything that you do. Before you pay your rent, before you go out to eat, you need to give to God, but within your income, right? He's saying be smart with your finances, but you still need to put God first. He isn't asking for a set amount. He isn't asking for it all. He's not asking for you guys to live uncomfortably. That's not what he's asking you to do. He's saying that you need to focus on God, and you need to be smart with your finances. And money is just another part and another way that we can put the kingdom and Christ first. Not that we can't pay rent, not that we can't go out and have fun and go do things. It's not wrong to do it all. But he calls us to put Christ first and be smart with our finances to the one who knows the church better than any of us, and that's Jesus. He doesn't talk about his opinion. He's not like, well, I think you should do this. No, he points to Jesus. He sees the mess, and he says, man, this isn't right. This isn't right because I know the church, and I know the church because I know Christ. He doesn't call them a lost cause. He doesn't put them down, but rather he brings them up through the gospel. Knowing that there's an issue, he doesn't stay silent. He realizes that this is not how the church should be, nor what the church is about, but he shows them wisdom in Christ. And so I know some of you guys saw me bring this thing up. If you didn't, then you missed it. But what this is I want this to kind of resemble the church, right? Doesn't look like it, but we're going to go through these beautiful messes in the church of Corinth. And so I wanted to start with the division between leaders, right? We kind of went through it. Paul was addressing the mess or the issue that happened when you focus on a specific leader. You cause divisions between that, and what he does, and what you'll find a common theme is he addresses the mess, he points it out to the church, he calls them in love, and he points them to Christ. Hope I didn't get paint on this carpet. Also, I'm not a painter. I'm not a Picasso. I'm more like a Picasso. So don't judge me if this is bad. I'm also not a comedian, but it'll be great. Next mess. We'll just keep going. Next mess. Chapter 5 through 7, he talked about the issue of sex that was going on in the church of Corinth. And I know all of you guys love coming here every Sunday, hearing Dave talk about this. But if you stuck around and made it through those weeks of uncomfortability, I commend you. But Paul addressed the issue of a man with his stepmom. I know you guys might remember that. He addressed the mess of a man with his stepmom. He also addressed the issue of leaders in the church that were sleeping with prostitutes. And they were kind of saying, like, it's okay, like Christ died for us. We're free from sin. Like, it's all good, like what Christ did, it's all good. And Paul addresses this mess, this issue, by using the gospel and shining a light on who Jesus is to them. He talks about how just as Jesus was raised from the dead, so will we also be raised. Our bodies are not our own, and we were bought at a price. That's 1Corinthians 6:19. And so what he does is he sees this mess that was going on within the church. He knows that it's not right. He knows the church materials, right? They were just sticks and stones and all that stuff. Like, there was nothing significant behind them. We believe that they were just figures. And the piece of meat that was sacrificed was created by God for us to enjoy. So Paul's saying if you're not putting somebody down, or if you're not at risk of somebody else's faith in Jesus or distorted view of Jesus, then it's okay. And so what makes one situation okay to eat the meat over another situation? And again, addressing the mess, addressing the issue in the church, Paul points to love. And he says that in this mess, we are called by Jesus to love one another as we love ourselves. So if eating that piece of meat or listening to that song or that drinking that beer or whatever causes somebody else to stumble or miss Jesus, then don't do it. We're called to love beyond all measure. And so what he does is he addresses the issue of meat or of food or of anything that we do that might cause somebody else to stumble or walk away from Jesus or have a bad view of Jesus. And what he does is he addresses it, he brings it to light, shows the church, addresses it with love, and he points them to the message of the gospel and who Jesus is. It's starting to get a little messy. Chapters 11 through 12 were about the mess or the issue going on throughout the weekly worship in the church of Corinth. Kind of like how we gather here on Sundays. He's addressing when they would gather. There was a lot that was going on. And so what was happening in these worship services is that people would have like an overwhelming spiritual moment, and they would start shouting in unknown languages, or they would get up and interrupt the teacher, and they would say, like, I have something that I want to say. And so then they'd start screaming, and they'd start saying something, and then somebody else would interrupt that person, and then start screaming and saying something. And it was just super chaotic, and the message was being, like, overshadowed, I guess. And it was distracting from visitors that wanted to come and hear about Jesus. And it would just freak them out. And Paul addresses this issue, again, with love, and pointing to them how church should be, like how the Christ bride should be. He uses an analogy that I know a lot of you guys have heard. We're going to start 1Corinthians chapter 12. It says, "For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ." And he uses the analogy, a lot of you guys might remember, like whether you're a hand or a foot or whatever, body has many members, but we're all as one. We all have different things that we do. Mess of the resurrection and the view that people had from the resurrection, he addresses it. He doesn't stay silent about it, but he points them to Jesus. He points them to the cross, points them to love, and he shows them the gospel. He helps them through this mess. And so I know Corinth had some messes, right? But not the church of today. Right? Like we don't eat animals that are sacrificed to other gods. We don't really follow a specific teacher. Like, we good. But the truth is, the church of today is very messy. Two Rivers has some messes. Like, we're not a perfect church. And I think to think that we are a perfect church, you might have something else you got to work through. There's no perfect church because it's run by flawed people. We've had to put out fires. We've had people leave. But Paul instructs us that in every mess that is made, we need to address it, bring it to light. We need to call it out in love, not in anger, in love. Point to the gospel and show the mess who Jesus is. Maybe you're here today and you aren't sure what this whole church thing is. Well, the church is full of sinful people who know that we're sinful, but we got a God who saves, who is worth serving, who is bigger than the mess that we carry. God calls us to give generously, to identify our messes in the church and identify the messes in our hearts. And that's what I'd like to do this morning. This mess, this last mess that I wanted to paint. And again, sorry if it doesn't look great. But this is the mess that we bring to church. The mess that we have a very hard time identifying. The mess that is in our life that week after week, we come to church, we worship, we praise God, but we can't seem to escape it because we don't address it. Because we're afraid to address it or we're uncomfortable addressing it. We don't know how to address it, but we know that it's there. And so this mess, for me, would be putting God first. That's what I struggle with the most. That's the mess that I feel like I bring to church. And so I know for me, putting God first looked a lot of different ways in my life. It's something that I've struggled with for the longest time. But when I was in high school, first part of college, It was one of those things where putting God first looked in the form of I wanted to live for myself. Like I wanted to party. I wanted to chase that high. I wanted to live for myself in every way, like drinking or doing something that would make me feel like I'm off this planet. But my mess was never addressed. I never gave it to God, and it cost me. It hurt me. It didn't bring anything good out of not addressing it, not identifying it. So I moved to Washington a few years to escape that mess and try to put God first. And when I came back, my mess looked a little bit different. I became stagnant in my faith. I struggled with my quiet times. I didn't spend the time with God that I needed to, and I still have a hard time with my finances. I pretty much live month to month because I always want to buy the newest phone, or I always want to eat at the best places, travel as much as I can, go to every concert. I still struggle with putting God first. It's an ongoing battle. And I don't know what your mess is. I don't know what you've struggled with. I don't know how in your life you've brought mess to church or you didn't know how to identify it. But I do know, let's see if this works. I do know that there is a God at the center of our mess that can address it, that can identify it, and that can bring light to our situation, to our mess. We just got to address it. We just got to bring light to it. And so I want to encourage you guys today to address that mess. And we're going to enter into a time of communion where we have an opportunity to shine our mess to Jesus, to give our mess to Jesus, to thank him for who he is, for what he's done, and to draw closer to him. Because we worship a God who is for us, who loves us. I want us to address the mess in our hearts. And this painting will be in the back of the room, behind that pillar over there. And I want to encourage you guys to identify your mess. It might be following teachers over Christ, or it might be, you're like, Joel Osteen's the man. I would never listen to anybody else. That might be another issue. But, I'm just kidding. But that might be something that you struggle with, where you're like, man, I just want to follow this teacher and everything that he says, and I don't want to listen to anybody else. It might be sex. It might be something that is your mess, that you have a hard time conquering. It might be bringing other people away from Christ, whether it's through food, through music, through money, through alcohol, through whatever. You might have a hard time of being like, well, that's their problem if they struggle with it. It's not my problem. I don't deal with that. And you might struggle with loving others. If your mess is distracting others in worship, if it's the disbelief of the resurrection, or if it's a mess that I didn't address, what I want you to do is I want you to take your thumb. I want you to focus on that mess. I want you to give it to Christ. I want you to put your identity in him. I want you to focus on that mess. I want you to pray. I want you to give your everything, your identity, your mess, your everything, into who Christ is and what the cross represents. And you guys can do that during this time of communion or when we worship or even after when service is over. And if you're ready to take that step into letting Jesus be the Lord of your life through commitment, through repentance, through baptism, man, we have people in the back that would love to talk. There are people in the back ready to pray for you, that answer those questions, ready to help give you your messes to Jesus. I want us to see the beauty of Christ through our mess. And I want us to give Jesus just our beautiful mess. Let's pray. God, I just thank you for today, and I just thank you for just who you are and who the church is. Just that we're able to come to church, we're able to just praise you, and we're able to bring our mess. That we don't have to be ashamed of it. We don't have to let it control our life. We don't have to let it control who we are. We don't have to let it control the church. But that we're able to listen to Christ, we're able to listen to Paul and what he says about what it means to address it, what it means to identify it, what it means to give it to you, and just the relief, just the good feeling it is knowing that you are just a loving God that wants to help us through it. And I just pray that we're able to make that commitment. We're able to make that first step of identifying it, of addressing it, of bringing it to light, bringing it to you, and just bringing it to the church. And just that we as a church are able to conquer that mess together, that we as a church are able to just continue to show love for those who need it, and that we're just able to be a church for everyone and not just a church for ourselves. In the way that we give, in the way that our hearts are centered around you, our thoughts, just everything.
mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. The moment that I wake up till I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father, known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender